As I look back at my childhood, there were many things I observed my parents and their friends doing that even as an adult today, I still don't quite understand. One of these was their seemingly endless obsession with condensation. When I was growing up, one of the things that every family I knew seemed to have in great abundance were coasters. You know, those little pieces of paper, cardboard, plastic, glass, whatever, that you put under your drink to keep the moisture from collecting on the table. I'm not sure what this obsession with condensation was all about, but back in the day, people were downright fanatical about it. As kids, there were only two things you needed to know about coasters. First, if you didn't want to get into big trouble, you made sure you always remembered to put one under your glass. And second, they made wonderful projectiles. Originally called beer mats, coasters were invented around 1880 in Germany, the first ones being made out of cardboard. Used exclusively at the time in pubs and public houses, they were a drab affair at best. But as time went on, companies began to see the advantages of these little pieces of paper, and before long, all manner of advertisements appeared on them. But as the world's enthusiasm with the in-home cocktail party grew, so did its fear of condensation. Soon, the coaster found its way into the home and began to take on all manner of shapes and designs. No longer were they just tiny cardboard cutouts sitting under your glass advertising beer or some such thing. Artistry, creativity, and a little bit of what appears to have been insanity had found their way under your glass. One very popular item in the fight against sweaty glassware arrived on the scene in the mid-1930s. It was called the hijack. Think of them as tiny sweat socks for your cocktail glass. You simply turned your glass upside down, and, for the less intelligent of us, the instructions kindly reminded you to do so before filling your glass with liquid, and slip the hijack on the bottom of your glass, and slip the hijack on the, there you go, on the bottom of your glass. Done. The originals were made out of a terry knit mercerized cotton and were invented by Mr. Ralph Hinchcliffe. And of course, the self-proclaimed king of coasters came in a large variety of styles and colors. There were even something called low jacks that were made to fit over the base of your wine glass. And even though I can't remember the last time I saw condensation on a wine glass, one could never be too careful. Another idea that I'm sure seemed like a good idea at the time was the jockstrap coaster, or jocks as one brand called itself. These were, as the package clearly states, meant for your highballs. Pun intended, I have no doubt. These tiny little jockstrap devices fit around the bottom of your glass, although I'm not sure how much condensation they actually prevented. Now, a jockstrap is an undergarment designed for supporting the male genitalia during sports or other vigorous physical activity. What this all has to do with drinking a cocktail, I'm sure I don't know. Here again, there were any number of styles to choose from, some with numbers, some with whistles, I'm not quite sure why, and the Milbit Company even thought of the ladies, producing what they called co-eds. The excitement must have been palatable, as you and your spouse were on your way to your neighbor's cocktail party, all the while wondering what form your evening's condensation abatement would take. A more sedate coaster offering that was quite popular was the straw hat, the vast majority of these being made in Japan, and the nicest of them coming in their own little hat boxes. One of our favorites is the skating coaster. You simply wound it up, put the little flag in place, of course, place the glass on it, and off you go. Now tell the truth. When was the last time you had a cocktail served to you like this? And I'm glad to report that, as advertised, it did not fall off the edge of the table. Apparently, having a coaster that will not stick to the bottom of your glass was of some great value, as there were any number of brands that boasted that claim, including the Can't Clean coasters, which were a three-piece, highly engineered affair. And these coasters shaped like tennis rackets. There was the tip-proof coaster for your more clumsy guests, and coasters whose big selling point seemed to be that they resembled the floor mats in your car. There were even coasters that floated. And in 1950, what housewife's heart wouldn't have skipped a beat when her husband arrived home and surprised her with a Dennis the Menace fun pack? This came complete with 36 cocktail napkins, each with a different Dennis the Menace cartoon, 14 books of matches, again each one sporting a different cartoon, and of course 24 foiled-lined ashtrays/coasters, each with, you guessed it, a different cartoon. It just didn't get any more exciting than that in 1955. As a side note, the Dennis the Menace fun pack you have just seen is a 100% original, complete, unused set that is quite rare to find, especially in this condition. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, have you ever heard of tegestology? This is, believe it or not, the practice of collecting coasters by people known as tegestologists. Back in the day, one of the first things your host handed you when visiting for an evening was a coaster. Sadly, I can't remember the last time I went to someone's house and was issued one of these wonderful devices. I guess the nation's love affair with the coaster, as well as its preoccupation with condensation, has gone the way of the dodo. I, for one, will miss them both. So please, join us each week as the 5 o'clock hour explores the history, the rituals, the gadgets and gizmos, the techniques, the recipes, the food, the drink, and all of the other wonderful and interesting things that make up this truly unique institution that we here call the 5 o'clock hour. Or visit us anytime at the5o'clockhour.com. And please remember, enjoy the 5 o'clock hour responsibly. Until we meet again, cheers.